Hello friends, thanks for joining in. Today we'll be looking at a common anti-pattern with fetch. This is code that I've even written myself and I continue to see across multiple code bases. I'd say there's a pretty good chance that you've run across code that looks just like this. In this video I'd like to go over why I think this code is problematic, as well as my solutions. And I'd be interested in hearing how you solve this problem yourself, so if you have a different solution, paste it below in the comments. I'd love to read that. But first I'd like to thank some of our new subscribers. Luis, Anadata, Patricio, Lisa B, Kevin, Mahmoud, Gabriel, Ubuntu Igor, Desert Storm, Wooden Production, Alex Penna, Mike Richardson, Shikar, Auth0, Cool, Ozcon, and Nicholas. It's your support that keeps a small channel like this going, and I really do appreciate it. It does mean a lot to me, so thanks. Okay, enough with that. Let's dig into the demo project. Here I've got a couple of functions. I have getPerson, getPlanet, and getSpecies, and they each have a call to fetch inside. GetSpecies is the same as these other two functions. I just wrote it in an async await style, so you can see the difference either using promises or async await. At first glance, there doesn't seem to be any issues with this code because I am calling each one of these successfully, and you can see the person is coming back as Luke Skywalker, the planet is Tatooine, and species comes back as human. Now the problems start to become more apparent once we start to veer off from that happy path. So let's see what happens when we call the API with something that would return a 404 error message. And I'm going to simulate that just by putting junk into the URL here. And if we look on line 16, I can see that it returns a fetch error. And the error message is invalid JSON body at my invalid URL. But the reason it gives is that there's an unexpected token, the less than symbol, in JSON position. So let's dig into this a little bit and see what exactly is happening. I'm going to convert this into a function body so that I can put some debug code here to see exactly what's going on. If I hover over response, I can actually see that my URL is returning a 404 with the status text not found. But the curious thing about this is that I'm still getting in the then path of the promise and not the catch. So even though fetch is returning a 404, it's successfully returning a 404. So it's actually my code that's invalid, where I'm expecting a JSON document to come back, but that isn't what's returned here. And that error message with the less than is probably due to the 404 returning an HTML page. This is a problem because when you get this error message, it misleads you by saying there's a problem parsing JSON, which actually isn't the case. The cause is that we got a 404, and that should have been reflected in the error message. So the way I like to solve this is inside of the .then, I like to put a check that says if the response is not okay, I'm going to throw a new error, and that error message is going to be HTTP error, and I'm going to add the response.status as well as the response.status text. Now how you handle this section yourself is going to depend on your application, but for me in my applications, this is how I'm writing it. And this is what the error message is going to look like. Now if I scroll back down into my code, I can see that I actually get an error message that would help me debug this a lot faster. Instead of trying to figure out why JSON's not parsing, I know immediately that it's a network issue or some sort of issue with my URLs. So now that I'm checking the response to be okay and throwing an error message, the error message now accurately reflects the problem. So now let's copy and paste this code into all of the other examples. Now another problem I have with this code is you can see in each of these functions the boilerplate has actually increased pretty dramatically. And you can see how this would increase really quickly if I had more functions or more fetch calls within each function. So what I like to do here is create a new function called fetchJSON. And that function is going to take a URL and it's going to do exactly what these functions all do. And now that all the boilerplate is inside of the fetchJSON function, I can just call fetchJSON from within getPerson. And I can do the same with getPlanets, and even the same with getSpecies, which no longer has to be async. Of course, let's correct this. Now it looks like everything's working correctly. Now there's a couple of benefits to doing this. First, you can see that my API has become simplified. What was a couple of functions is turned into just 3 lines of code now: get person, get planet, get species. They're really easy to see what's going on. Another benefit to creating this abstraction is if I need to change something in fetch JSON, those changes are propagated throughout all of the code. I don't have to go hunting through all of the places I'm calling fetch and make those changes. So for example, if I wanted to create this into an async function, and that's it. And now the change is spread throughout get person, get planet, and get species. If I were to make enhancements to this error handling in the future, it would become a change in just one place, which just makes life a little bit easier. And optionally, we could take fetch JSON and put that into another file, which we could then import into this file. These are just recommendations. You may solve them a different way. If you have a better way of solving it, again, post it in the comments. I'd love to read it. And of course, if you like this video, hit like. If you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.